They are often dismissed as monsters of the sea. But these majestic, enigmatic creatures are actually essential wardens of our marine environment. Found in every ocean across the world, they play a fundamental role in ensuring balance and stability in our oceans. Sadly, this role is jeopardized by overfishing and habitat loss. Around 3 billion people rely on fish as their primary source of protein. Ongoing declines in shark populations could have devastating and unpredictable impacts on marine food webs, and even our own food supply. The plight of sharks and rays was the spark for the Save Our Seas Foundation, founded over 15 years ago. Through the funding and support of research, conservation, and education initiatives, we are dedicated to safeguarding the future of sharks and rays. Today we have 3 centers based in Seychelles, South Africa, and the USA. Since 2003, we have funded over 300 projects on over 60 species in over 50 countries. We have also partnered long-term with several projects, including the Shark Spotters in South Africa, the Shark Lab in the Bahamas, and the Manta Trust. We're passionate about our mission: protect the future of sharks and rays and our oceans for generations to come. We can and will make a difference. The Save Our Seas Foundation.
I used to actually be terrified in any water where I couldn't see the bottom. Tales of monsters lurking in the deep. What are these enigmatic, crazy creatures? The first recognizable ancestors of sharks existed before trees. Whereas now, they could be facing collapse in a single generation. I actually think it's very hard to know just how much you love something until you lose it. Grief is the price we pay for love. The thing that drove me on this path was a pure passion for the animals themselves. I didn't start out wanting to save them because I didn't know that they needed saving or help. I realized that if we want to help save sharks, we need to make sure they have safe places to live in.
Sharks and rays, they are ancient, enigmatic, misunderstood, and essential to our oceans. But these important animals are under immense pressure as the Save Our Seas Foundation to help. Through supporting research, conservation, and education, we work to ensure a future for sharks and rays. The Save Our Seas Foundation. Together, we can make a difference.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Save Our Seas Foundation Distinguished Speaker Series. My name is Lance. I'm here at the Museum of Discovery and Science in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. There, I am the Director of Environmental Sustainability, doing lots of work around educating our public about climate change, about how we can take care of our oceans, and all kinds of really interesting things. I'm here live from the museum floor tonight. No, that is not a Zoom screen behind me. This is a life-size megalodon shark. we have in our museum. It's a lot of fun place to come learn and play. So come on down anytime that you're interested. We are located, like I said, in sunny South Florida. Our main mission at the museum is to connect people to inspiring science. That's what we try to do every day. Our 4 strategic kind of like action pillars, if you will, the 4 things that we kind of tailor everything around is about physical science education, early childhood education, health and wellness education, and environmental sustainability. That's me, that's tonight. Tonight we're connecting you to a fantastic researcher talking all about ocean conservation and the research that goes around sharks and rays. And of course, tonight cannot be possible without our friends at the Save Our Seas Foundation. Big shout out to them for making this whole speaker series possible. Thank you very much. If you're interested, you can check out the whole series on the Museum of Discovery and Science YouTube channel. We have 2.5 years going back now of this series. Some of our older videos have gotten tens of thousands of views, and they're full of really great information from really awesome presenters presenting their research and about education and conservation and all kinds of cool stuff about sharks and rays. Tonight, we have another fantastic speaker coming to tell you all the way from Indonesia, actually, Faqih Akbar Alghozala, sorry about that, Faqih, Alghozala, will be talking to us tonight from Indonesia. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning your time. Tomorrow, he's calling from the future. And talking to all about his research in Indonesia, in the Jakarta area about guitarfish. So welcome, Faqih. We're so happy to have you tonight. Before we get started, I'll go over a few little things, and I'll tell you more about Faqih before we start. If tonight, while we're presenting, if you have any questions about what's being discussed, please put them into the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat the whole time, and I'll ask those questions on your behalf to Faqih tonight. And don't wait to the end. We will have some time at the end for Q&A, but you don't have to wait to the end. If you have a burning question, just type it in, and I'll see if I can chime in and find a moment to ask it for you. If not, I'll wait to the end, but put them in there anyway. So go ahead and use the chat for that. Faqih was born and raised in the Javanese household in South Tangerang, a city on the outskirts of one of the busiest capitals in the world, Jakarta. Although he grew up far from the ocean, it was always his favorite place to visit, especially over a weekend or on a long holiday with his family. Faqih's love for the marine world only grew as he filled his days with encyclopedias and books about the ocean and what was and continues to be his favorite animal, the shark. The documentaries and scientific television series Faqih frequently watched further fueled his admiration for sharks, leading to his decision to pursue a bachelor's degree in marine science. In Faqih's second year of college now, with his friend who shares a passion for sharks, together they co-founded a marine megafauna conservation community called Gaia Conservation. Faqih immersed himself in this community for the next 3 years, acquiring a vast amount of knowledge and a multitude of new skills and experiences in shark and ray conservation. After that, Faqih continued to be involved in various internships, research projects, and training to further build his capabilities as a shark and ray researcher and conservationist. Since obtaining his bachelor's degree, sharks and rays have been an inseparable part of Faqih's life and work. As an inspiring researcher and conservationist, Faqih believes that he still has much to learn and also much to offer in terms of advancing shark and ray conservation, both nationally and globally, in Indonesia and globally. Today, Faqih is the co-founder and project leader of the Elasmobranch Project Indonesia, EPI. EPI is a registered nonprofit organization working to support shark and ray conservation in Indonesia through citizen science, research, and awareness campaigns. So with that, Faqih, welcome.
Hi, Lance. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. How's your day in Indonesia? Is it going well so far?
It's going well. It's totally great. It's been a great year. I'm so excited to, give a little sharing about our project with the rest
Good.
of the world.
All right, well, I'm going to share my screen for your presentation. Please feel free to tell me to move on to the next slide, or if I'm going too fast or too slow. Please feel free to do that. And again, to those of you joining us tonight, please feel free to type questions into the chat. I'll be sure to be monitoring that throughout tonight. Okay. All right. Well,
All right.
Faqih, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Lance. Hi everyone. Good evening, I believe, for some of you in the US. Good morning for those of you in Asia, Indonesia, especially. It's early morning, but I'm so excited. I think it keeps me awake all night, Lance. So, this is an interesting project that I believe this will also be, going to be really useful for those of you that, probably pretty unfamiliar with what we're going to be sharing about tonight. As the title says, Java's giants, and you're looking at two pictures here, at a really big looking fish there. But yeah, before we go forward and go deeper into what I was talking about these giants, my name is Faki. My name has always been difficult to pronounce, so it's totally fine. I'm from Jakarta, like close by in South Tangerang. I've been in the marine conservation field now, specifically in sharks and rays for the past 5 years, if I can say. As you can see in the pictures here, I think I prefer to talk about who I am using these pictures. I've always loved being in the ocean. If people ask me if I prefer the mountain or the sea or the beach, it's definitely the beach or the sea. I like the mountains, but I think I'm just more suited to the waters. I'm happy there, and as you can see, I've worked with various species of sharks and rays. Been to places as well after I graduated from, after I got my bachelor's degree, to learn more about sharks and rays. And if we go next, Lance, if you were looking at some pictures now, and this next slide is telling us more of what we have in the sharks and rays conservation world, especially in Asia and from where I am in Southeast Asia. It would be pretty similar to, Indonesia, Malaysia, even Singapore, the Philippines. We share a similar characteristic in terms of sharks and rays conservation. So it's if you are from Europe, from the US, or from Australia, things might be different with shark conservation. We have different issues. I'm just trying to show to everyone here that sharks conservation is more than working with live sharks. I mean, it has always been cool, right? Going to the sea, working with, charismatic species like the hammerheads or probably the great whites that you guys have in the US or in Australia. But it's more than that. It's totally more than that. If you can see here from these pictures, it goes from working with the locals. It goes from working with the communities. It goes from, getting dirty, getting to the fishing port, going to the fish market, take samples, and you work with dead animals as well. You work with live animals as well, as you can see in some of the pictures. And you also work in the lab. You also work, on the street. You go to the, you go to the public, you go to, people that has no idea at all about what these animals are. And that's all part of sharks and rays conservation that, probably is not really voiced that much. It needs more attention. But, I'm not trying to advocate general things here. I'm trying to talk about specific things, but hopefully that gives a bit of picture of what I've been doing and what I am. And then if we go next, probably let me talk a bit about what EPI. This is Elasmobranch Project Indonesia, basically a local NGO that me and my friend Nadia, who is also present here, who's also the co-founder of the EPI. It's a specific NGO that we created to work with sharks and rays. The reason is pretty simple. Working in the field of marine conservation, let alone sharks and rays, is really difficult. There is little opportunity that we feel, all right, let's build our own opportunity and help to save the sharks. And it has been running now for 5 years. We started in 2021, as you see here. We were not born just like that as an NGO, no. Well, we were basically, it was just a project. We focus on citizen science, and we focus on the web-based platform before. As you can see below, it has been growing a lot. 5 years now, and we've helped map over 96 species across 29 provinces across Indonesia, which for our team, ourselves, it's really amazing. We've had skepticism, we have pessimism before we created this, and it has been really great that now people are more aware that citizen science is something really important. And then going further, we go to the next slide. We further our effort in citizen science by growing our network, basically. So we created what we call the Indonesian Elasmobranch Citizen Science Network. So we tried to keep the people, to keep our contributors in the link, so they have something, they have somewhere, a platform or a vessel they could keep continuing and contributing for shark science. And we've trained over 60 youths across Indonesia in 2021 on Elasmobranch sharks and rays research conservation. We've also partnered with dive operators, basically the tourism sectors, because I think it's really easy to say that these guys spend more time in the water. They spend more time scuba diving than researchers and conservationists. And so they have more chance to see some rare species like the hammerheads, or even treasure sharks, even mako sharks, like in Indonesia. It's super rare. And we took this opportunity to work with some really conservation-oriented dive operators. As you can see here, we have Air Dive from Alor Wailina from Jakarta, and Indo-Ocean Project from Raja, Bali, and Bira in Indonesia. And it has been a pleasure to work with them. And yeah, basically it's one of our pillar, citizen science, and we included everything in our project with citizen science. And as you can see here, we work with them. We don't just we don't want the term citizen science to be like you're just using people for your own convenience, but no, we work together. It involves no money, it involves mutual benefit. As you can see here, we provide workshops to divers of our partner. The students go to the field, they get hands-on experience talking with the locals, doing data collection, sample collection on sharks and rays. And we also created products, books, guidelines, stickers, posters about sharks and rays research conservation, so the awareness can be it can be distributed more than just around our cycle. Usually sharks and rays information will just circulate in our circle of researchers, and we want more than that. Going next.
That's awesome. You bringing more people along for the ride is so important.
Yep. Absolutely important. I mean, like the museum, it means nothing if we don't share any our knowledge with the public, right? So
right.
it's been the core of our work, and we were thinking back in 2022, hey, let's do more than just citizen science. Hey, let's do more. Like, I think we can do more and contribute more directly. And we now have two projects running in the field. One of it is this one we call the Calabia project. Calabia is the local name for a pollet shark. A pollet shark, we can call them as well the walking shark. We have an endemic species in Raja Ampat, where we've been working with the locals there for 2 years now. And it has been really cool because, many about the species is barely known, and we're working meticulously. We train the locals, we do science, we advocate things. And now we've beginning to, unfold some mysteries surrounding the species, and hopefully that can help with the authority to better conserve the species. And the second project that we have, which is the next one here, is what we're going to be talking about tonight, this morning, which is about the rhinorays. We call it the Rhinorays Project, and it's based in Karimunjawa National Park in the Jepara Regency, which is located in Java. It's one of the biggest sea in Indonesia, Java Sea. We're working with two families here. The Glaucostegidae, which is the giant guitarfish, or some people knows them as chauvinose ray, and also the wedgefish or the rhinidae family. We'll talk more about why we're working there, and it goes to the next slide. This is probably not some of the stuff that we want to see after this, but let's get to know more about what are the rhinorays. Like, some people, what is it, a rhino? It doesn't really look like a rhino, right?
Right,
It
we're
doesn't
wondering.
even look like, right?
Well,
I
we already have
mean,
our first question. Maybe you can answer as you're
oh,
describing them. Our first question is, why are they called guitarfish?
oh, that's super easy, Lance. I mean, if you can see from the pictures here, they look totally like a guitar. I mean, I think the first people that sees this animal, they think, "Ah, it looks like a guitar." You might call it anything that looks like a guitar as well.
I guess a wide base with they're such an interesting fish that I always describe them as the body of a shark with the face of a stingray. It's like they're so confused.
Exactly. Exactly. Some people call them the guitar shark, while they're actually not shark, you know? So if you can see, I mean, generally for scientists, it's to differentiate between sharks and rays, you see where the gills are located. So for sharks, it will be on the side of the head, right? And for rays, it will be underneath their body. And if you can see from the pictures, you won't be able to find the gills on the side, and it will be on the bottom. So therefore, these two species, the guitarfish and the wedgefish, they are rays. It's different from stingrays, definitely, but they're also flat actually. But again, like, they have the body of a shark, so it's they're not a mix. It's just how they genetically evolve, you know, as they go. Um, and they're bottom dwellers. Basically, they stay mostly in the sandy bottom, the muddy substrates, and they eat basically crustaceans like shrimps, crabs, small fish. I mean, despite their huge body, they can grow up to 3 meters. They only eat small stuff. I think 3 meter is 9 feet, 10 feet something.
Yeah, about 10 feet.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's surprising for a big fish to be only eating small animals. But this is what's fascinating about them. And they're actually still in the same family as the sawfish that you guys have in Florida.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and they give birth. So unlike most fish, they still produce eggs inside, but they give birth to live pups, like a miniature of the adults. So this is really interesting and something unique about sharks and rays. And we go next, Lance. And this might be we need to highlight this because, again, say that issues in Southeast Asia is different. Like most of the issue would be because of the demand of fins, right? That's what we know, right? Shark fin soup. But it turns out that wedgefish and guitarfish, like these rhinorays, their fins are valued much more than the sharks that you know. It could be twice and three times the market price in the international market, even in Indonesia itself. Like fishers know they are the most valuable fins out of all the species they have. And this is
Is,
surprising because, yeah, sorry, Lance, go on.
no, you can finish your thought, of course. I was just wondering why. Are they bigger? What's the reasoning?
Well, that's also something that, I think it goes back to, how it is in the market. I think these fish are big, right? So they can have a really big fins. So the bigger fins, it could go for over hundreds of dollars compared
Makes
to
sense.
if you see some of the sharks here. Hammerheads, their price are also expensive, but wedgefish in particular have the highest value of, uh, price in the market. And yeah, this is somewhat a bit misleading. People, even in Indonesia, not many knows about this, this animal because they thought like shark fin soup, okay, it's from shark, right? Well, these animals are raised, and so yeah, there's this issue that's not publicly and mostly known as well. And if we go next, when we thought that the issue is an international issue, it goes beyond just that. All right, we talk about the fin. Then where does the rest of the body goes, right? It's not just an animal for the fins, right? They have the meat, they have the skin, they have the intestines, everything. So if you can see in the picture here, it might not be the best looking pictures that you want to see from shark conservation. You want to see live animals swimming in the ocean. You want to look people diving with this majestic animal, but you see here the meat are consumed and sold locally. It's demanded. There is a constant demand for the meat for sharks and rays in Indonesia. Even the bones, the jaws, even the innards, like the intestines, the guts, they're all processed. And for this case in our site, these products are mostly smoked, and they're just sold in the traditional market. Like you wouldn't even think that's a wedgefish or a guitarfish. Even if I put down there, I couldn't put up the image because it might be just a little bit too much. But even
Yeah.
the eggs and the embryos, they're made into porridge. Everything is used, like what people said about the coconut tree. Everything from the coconut can be used. The fruit, the shell, the trees, the trunk, the leaves, everything can be used. And so does with sharks and rays, especially this rhinorays. And if we go next, um,
There we go.
and this is the reason why we're working in Karimunjawa for rhinorays. So in Java Sea, rhinorays, the wedgefish, guitarfish are pretty highly exploited as bycatch or valuable catch. It started as something that is accidental, but they know it's valuable, so they choose to retain it. And as the price, as the demand goes, so it's the population are declining based on the IUCN assessment. And here in Java Sea, we have this national park called the Karimunjawa National Park. Um, Unfortunately, right, I'm gonna say that in Southeast Asia, I think, especially in Indonesia, MPA or a national park does not equal full protection for animal. There will be areas where people can still harvest and extract natural resources, and this includes fishing. But if we see here, the national park, it presents sort of like golden opportunity for us to protect the species in Java Sea. Um, and one of the reasons that we're working there is basically there is no information about the rhinorays in Karimunjawa um, before we start our project in 2022. And you saw that this one little video on the right bottom that it's like a glimmering hope. We've seen small or baby guitarfish And that's something that you want to see in conservation. You want to see hope, right?
Yeah. How old were those little guitar fish that are in that video?
Probably, I doubt it's more than 2 months, Lance.
Oh,
They're
wow.
really small. Yeah, they're really small. I think we checked before, and it doesn't have the belly button anymore. But this size, this is totally like a really small one.
Yeah.
It's a
They're so
newborn,
cute.
you can call it. They are really cute, honestly. Like when we
Yeah.
found them, oh yeah, we just have to like it was caught by the fishers, and we just had to buy it and release it.
Uh, gotcha.
You know,
I was just
and
looking
then
at this map. So
yeah,
you were talking about the national park. So is all the what do all the colors mean?
okay. Good question. Actually, the whole square, the brown one is all national park. But as I said before, it doesn't, you couldn't interpret it as a food protection.
Okay.
So the
And
red squares there,
the outlines are islands, right?
the outlines are islands, yeah. And if you see
Okay.
the red boxes there, these are
Yes.
the only no-take zone in the island. So imagine
Ah.
we have rhinorays that uses shallow water, right? And it would most probably be all over the islands in the national park. So,
Okay.
well, we have a lot to work with,
All right.
definitely. So
Okay.
next, but it's a good starting point because we have a national park, which is an existing MPA, right? And so we started with baseline. In 2022, 2023, I think the past 3 years, we've been collecting data, fisheries data. We know that people are actually catching the rhino rays with a spear gun. Like you would imagine a spear gun used for, yeah, pelagic fish, right? Trevally, probably groupers, some coral fishes as well. But these are used for the wedgefish, for the guitarfish. The locals even make a specialized hook there. If you can see, like it's a really big hook that they use to specifically, you know, hook the wedgefish in the spiracle. So the shrine rays, they have a specific holes they use for breeding, just like other bottom dwelling sharks and rays. The locals know that they can hook them there and then just pull it out from the water. And this is something that we don't know until we interview like hundreds of fishers across the national park. And part of that, we also assess whether they are actually willing to release this brine race because it's actually not their target catch. If you see that yellow fish there,
Mm.
we call it the yellow tail fish. That's their main target actually. So we want to know, would they actually be willing to release or not to catch it? And at the same time, we try to assess how abundant they are actually in the water through what we call the graph system, the bait remote underwater video, and try to capture, real life brine rays. And if we go next, here we started also with collecting what the locals know and where they think the wedges and the rhine and the gillerfish could be found. And turns out they could be found across the islands in the national park, which is pretty crazy and awesome as well. When we thought that they could only be found in certain areas, turns out they are well distributed. Then it means we have the whole area of the national park as assumed that, hey, this national park, Karimunjawa, could be like a hotspot. It could be like a key point in Java Sea where we can actually protect this population because it's an MPA already. So we just have to work within, and hopefully the effects will spill out from the national park. If you guys get what I mean.
Sure. Just
And
so everyone understands what we're looking at. So this is the rectangle is the same orange rectangle we saw earlier of the
exactly,
national
yeah,
park. Or it's all you said it's also a marine protected area, an MPA, right?
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And then that is here. I guess that arrow is really, really
Yeah,
handy.
it's a really, really small national park there.
Yeah. So
So
how many square kilometers, or is that how you measure it in square kilometers or acres? How big is it?
yeah,
Do you know?
it's it's not that big. I mean, if it's
Okay.
easier to visualize, it only takes 3 hours to go from one end of the national park to the other. So
In a
it's a
boat.
pretty, yeah, in a boat. It's a pretty
Okay.
small national park, but it means a lot, if you can see
Yeah.
there. The red
The
dots
hot,
and the
like so
yellow
you said
dots,
it's a hot spot. That's really
it's,
interesting.
it's
Okay.
yeah. And this is how we know that this is the right place to start, as we saw our first guitarfish in Browse in the national park. So many Browse works has been done across Indonesia, but very few actually has been able to record the rhinorays because they are bottom dwellers. They move a lot. And if you can see here, this is just one. But sadly, in terms of statistic, we can consider it low. You know. And then if we go to the next one, we'll see what the wedgefish looks like alive in comparison to the dead ones that we showed before. So this is also pretty unique about the wedgefish, is that they they swim with what we call symbiont, just like the manta rays, just like the whale sharks. They would have followers, and then we can see here some king cobias, some even a trevally, and some remora fish, and they get some benefit as well from the remains of what the wedgefish and the guitarfish eat. So they also, ecologically benefits other fish, if you can see. If
It's
we
so
go,
big. That's a
it's
big
it's
fish.
that's a big fish. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm telling you,
That's
this is really
incredible.
big.
Can,
It's a
could
really
you just maybe you said it earlier, but could you just reiterate what a bruv is?
oh
BRUV?
yeah. So as I mentioned before, BRUV is baited remote underwater videos. Basically, we put baits, as you can see here. We
Right.
put chunks of fish, mostly mackerels, because they are oily and they can last long for an hour or two. And basically, we just put camera behind it. So any
Yeah.
sharks and rays, they're mostly attracted to these baits. And voila, I mean, as we expected, we got more wedgefish than we got sharks in our project,
That's
I think,
amazing.
the last two
That's great.
years. So this is a really good start for the project. And if we go next, initially we started only with daytime broth. So broth are mostly used during the day. But then we are curious whether wedgefish and guitarfish are actually more active during the night. And so
Uh,
we did what we call the night broth, which not many people actually do this because it's a bit technically difficult. You have to work out there in the night, out in the sea. You can't really see anything. It's basically pitch black. You have limited, lights sources. But yeah, we found one wedgefish during the night broth. And we also saw a scallop hammerhead, which also was the first recorded alive in the national
wow.
park. So it holds
Wow.
more to just than rhinorays. It has, you can see, I think we estimate the size to be juvenile. So we have juvenile hammerhead, which indicates, small animals are using the national park for something, right? Maybe for them to grow. Um,
How,
bigger
how
animal
deep
tends to
is
be in deep water. Right?
how deep is the water
Yep.
here for these bruvs?
Um, maximum 40 meters, because again,
Okay.
Karimunjawa, the national park itself, I think the deepest water is only
Yeah.
60 meters. I think it's around
Okay.
20 feet, if it's something.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about
Um,
140-ish feet. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So it's a really shallow area compared to the rest of the Java Sea. So it makes
Yeah.
sense for animals to use this for breeding ground, nursery for the youngs. And we don't stop with just field work. We go back to the community, as I say in the beginning. Like, it means nothing if we don't work with the people in the front line, the people who does the fishing. So we provided workshops for the fishers about the rhinorays, about shark's and they're actually, Lance, they're pretty defensive in the beginning.
Mm.
People, communities in I think in Southeast Asia in general as well, they're pretty defensive when you talk about sharks and rays, because the assumption is that we want to like we want to blame them, but no, actually no. And when we told them, no, we're not here to blame you, we are here to tell you the truth, we are here to share information. And now it's so easy for us to get into the communities. They help us to do works. They help us with collecting data and everything. And so this is why this is also key for us to work with the communities where the rhinorays in Karimunjawa. And if we go next, we're doing more than just a workshop. So we assess that, okay, we know now from the research, we know that fishers are willing to release the small rhinorays, the small wedgefish, the small guitarfish, because they have little value compared to the big ones. So, I mean, you can imagine small sharks, the fins are also small, right? And they know that it has no value, then yeah, I think it's fine. They say, yeah, it's fine to release them. Well, let's wait until they grow bigger. So at least they have this positive thinking about, maintaining the population, right? So it's not like blind harvest of the sharks and rays. And we engage them to see what types of willingness. So we ask them, we give them this pledge so they can choose. We gave them options, whether they want to just report, whether they want to also release the small ones, or maybe all sizes of, rhinorays. And by that, we have now 93 fishers signing the pledge to willingly contribute to rhinorays conservation. It's not the same for one fisher to the other, but we have people that are willing to contribute here. And this is a really good start. And this is what we got. So some of these videos they were sent voluntarily to our team. You can see from the left one, we have a bamboo shark, the two in the middle and the one on the right. If you can play that again, Lance. It's a really rare encounter of wedgefish swimming to the shallow and onto the surface. While in the middle, you can see there one local fisher releasing a really big guitarfish. It can get him a bit of money, like some money, definitely, right? Cigarette money is what they call, but it's working. Like the approach is working. It's not gonna be working like for the whole villages in the park, but it's a start. It's a really good start. And these videos are really rare, including wedgefish. If you guys want to ask scientists across the world for wedgefish and guitarfish, so this is really exciting.
That's such an amazing mark of success for your project that the fishers are sending you videos of instead of catching them and you finding them in the market later. That's amazing. That's really awesome.
Yep, absolutely. But there's a but that you don't just stop there, because it doesn't apply to all fishers yet, right? So those are just the minorities. So we also do this. We also did this assessment of, we want to know if we provide them with options here. If you can see, we use, like playing cards here. We provide them with options. So people have the tendency to say no if you just give them one option, right? If I ask you, would you swim in ice cold water of minus somewhat degree, they would probably say no directly. But if you give them options, they would still be able to give you like preference. And that's what we did here. And now we realize, and now we know that they are fine actually with being restricted in catching the rhinorays, but based on size. So they, this is a really good start, because we know what will work and what will not work. Some conservationists think that we gotta put them on top of the paper. We have to sign them. We have to make the food protection. We have to make the law, and that's done. Well, it's not. We know some species that are fully protected, that are still consumed, that are still being hunted. Like it happens across the globe, and we don't want that to be our end goal. We want like the real impact happens in the field. And so we are proceeding from this to the next one. Here we continue now to work to see how bad or how are the rhinorays actually being fished. What's the intensity, how many is it per year, what's the ratio between the male and the female, are they only catching the big ones, as they say, or are they also catching the small ones? So we're doing this, what we call the landing or market survey data collection. Basically, this is where I say we're getting dirty. If we can go there, like sharks and rays, when they are dead, they have the smelliest smell of all fish out there. Like, it's different because they produce urea. It's part of their metabolism, and when they're dead, this substance that when you touch them, and when they've been dead for longer, they will get smellier as as the day goes. And by doing this, we basically will be able to know, okay, what time of the year will be the big ones being caught, like where are the pregnant females being caught, and what time. And then from all the data, if we can see the nerdy plot here on the right, we can actually be able to estimate how long does it take for this animal to grow, how many
Yeah.
years for it to be able to to give birth, to reproduce. So this is really important when we think that, okay, conservation is working with live animals, but dead animals can speak as well and tell us and help with conservation. Instead of just banning it, there was the case of a species, I wouldn't name the species because it's fully protected. Now there's
Right.
many information we couldn't get out of the species because the fishers are now, they still catch it, behind the scene, but they won't show the scientists because they are afraid of getting caught, right, by the authority. There is a pros and cons. This is the more practical thing in the world of
Yeah.
conservation, but let's not get there.
It's okay.
Let's go to the next
So
one.
I just wanted to say,
Yep.
just for a guess, so 1,000 millimeters, that's about a meter, so 3.3 feet. Right.
Oh,
So it takes about
so
10 years to become mature for a guitarfish. Is that what this plot's kind of saying? 10 to
so yeah,
15 years?
just to so it doesn't mislead the people watching. This is just an example. This is just an example because this
Okay.
project is
Okay.
still on. So this
Gotcha.
is like
Okay.
another model from another species. So
Right.
we're still working on that, and we'll see how it goes by the end or by the start of next year.
Okay.
But
And I just want
yeah,
to chime in because I've been chiming in a lot. Apologies.
oh, come on, don't worry, man.
We have about maybe 5 minutes, and because I want to leave a little bit of time for questions at the end.
Yep.
Did you hear me? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I get you. So let's get this fast. We're also working with this gory stuff, like this disgusting stuff. That we work with their intestine to see how long does it take for them to mature? How many embryos, how many pups do they have once they are pregnant? And then as like I think you can count the age of a tree from the ring that they have in the woods. We can also do that with sharks and rays, and this is part of the nerdy stuff that we do in the lab. And if we go next, I think we're getting to the exciting part here. We're also doing genetic analysis. So we want to see whether the population in the national park is actually connected to the area in the Java Sea, or probably across Indonesia. So it will show how important the MPA or the national park here is in Karimunjawa. But enough of the nerdy stuff. Let's go next again because we will also provide the fish buyers, basically the fishmongers in the island, about the species, so they know that these animals are actually critically endangered, that they are under the CITES appendix, because most people they they don't do the Conservation Act because they don't know what they're actually doing or what they're supposed to be doing. This is really important. And next again. So this is also what we're doing. So we develop a board game for the fishers. So we ask them to play a board game with us, but the board game is actually sort of a replication of a fishing. So it's like they're fishing in real life, but they're doing it in the form of a board game. And by doing it this way, we tested rules that are actually possible management, scenarios. and we're able from here to see what their actual responses are towards this behavior, towards this management. And it's a really great tool, and we're still ongoing with this. But this is something really interesting because fishers are mostly this defensive when you ask them about protection, and they're actually happy and laughing when they're doing this. And we got data for science, so it's a really good approach that we are using. And then moving forward,
That's really cool.
especially for people that like sport games.
Yeah.
And so this year we're starting this new scheme. We're working with the fisher, and we're trying to hire them as a scientist. I think this has been done before in Belize by the Moat Lab team. So we're replicating that. We want to hire the fishers to help us do conservation, do research, so we can introduce the sense of ownership and conservation for the rhinorays. And it helps with the sustainability of the conservation, and it's not just about making rules so they don't catch, man. It probably will not work anyway, right? And next year we're hoping to continue what we have been doing. And if you can see here on the right, we're hoping to be able to do the cool stuff that people will see in National Geographic or Discovery Channel, or maybe Shark Week. We were trying to assess and to locate where these animals breed, where the pups are growing. So yeah, we're gonna be doing some tagging work this year and next year, and if we go next, right? Basically, this project, if you go next,
Yeah.
it's a mix of everything from science, ecological, social, education, raising awareness, and involving the locals. There is no way pure science will be able to, reduce the threat for these animals. Like, science is really great. It's a great tool, but we need to do more than science. Most people think that I wanted to do science because it's really cool. I got to work. I got to tag the animals, but yeah, what it's gonna do, right? And so conservation is more complex, and hopefully, if you go to the next video, sorry, before the video, this is also important. It means going back to the authority, going back to the people you work with. And here we do it in person or virtually to the government, to the locals. They need to know what are the things that you're doing, what are you getting? And because we're out of time here, and this is what it's all about. So if you can see here later at the end of the video, you will see a happy fisherman screaming and laughing at the wet fish that he caught, but I released it. So it's something that can actually becomes money for him, but because we've engaged him, we released it, and that's the face that we want to see. That's pure happiness there, and that's conservation. Right. And it's not just us doing it. So this last video is what makes me really happy when when we're doing this project. Basically, we've measured one of the wedges, right? We've measured one of the wedges, and then we asked the fisher, like, this is the son of the fisher that we're working with. We want him to release the wedge. He was initially like, I couldn't do it. I can't do it. I don't know how. But come on, like, they are fishers. They work with fish every day. They just need the confidence. They just need us to show the right way to do it. I will see it in this video.
Dorong ke depan, yo. 1, 2, 3.
Easy. So they just need the confidence. They just need the motivation and the push from us. So it's not just science. We have to get them involved. And so yeah, I think that's the last of my slides. Thank you so much. I hope it enlightens of what the Java Giants is all about. Thanks, Lance.
That's amazing. It's such a wonder. I want to clap because it's such a good project. It's so holistic. It's so, you talk about how research, helps you answer questions. The science helps you answer questions, but then that's only the first step. You have to follow it up. That fuels the conservation. Where do you need to do the research? It fuels the education, because if you don't have the fishers on board, what good is a law written on paper that no one's going to enforce or just care about, right? It's a truly impressive project. Kudos to you for putting it together and carrying it forward and doing more. That's really, really impressive. We have a few minutes for some questions. We had a question from one of our guests, specifically about the teeth of the guitarfish. And I actually, in the museum, we don't have a jaw of a guitarfish, but we have a bone clone of a guitarfish. It's a 3D printed model of a bowmouth guitarfish. Do you have bowmouth guitarfish in Indonesia?
Yep.
Okay.
A super cool one.
This is the jaw of it. So for the person that asked the question of how many teeth do they have? Well, maybe we can count them, but they are really small. Let me see if I can get them in. There you go. They're rounded, right? So most sharks have, like the sharp, jaggy teeth to catch fish and other things like that. But this one eats things that it has to crush. So it has these rows and rows of kind of like small teeth that are very, very blunt, and they use it to crush things with. We have similar teeth in the back of our mouth, right, to crush stuff with. But this one has a whole row of it. And like most sharks, they as the teeth in the front get damaged, the teeth in the back will grow and replace them. It's like a conveyor belt. So pretty cool. So hundreds of teeth. That's how many teeth they have. Someone asked that question, and I just happened to have a model of a bowmouth guitarfish in the museum, and I was like, oh wait, I should go get that.
That's perfect. Actually, you helped that. You helped with that. Like, it's a really good answer.
Well, so we know about you. You told us a little bit about your career and how you got involved in this. Creating your own organization when you were young, in college, even, right? That's really impressive. So, a lot of people want to do similar work. Do you have any advice for people wanting to go into science, go into research? How can they follow in your footsteps? This kind of thing.
Well, I mean, they don't really have to follow my footsteps. Like, people have different paths, but if they want to, I think for my advice is just to be persistent. You can't just stop because there's no opportunity. I've been applying for works in conservation, but I have not been getting one. It doesn't mean that that's the end of the world, right? There is other opportunities. Like, there are other people outside of, probably if you're a student, like there are other, other lecturer, other faculty stuff outside of your university, outside of your lab, that probably can offer you, I don't know, scholarship, probably research opportunities. You got to pursue it. You got to look for it, but with an attitude. I have to say, attitude is really important, because I was saying that we have little opportunity, right, in this field. So basically, most people that are more experienced, they want to work with people that they can trust, that they can rely on. So attitude is really important. Aside from, you got to be persistent. Then again, you don't have to build your own NGO. You don't have to do all this complex stuff. Some people are more towards the lab. If that's you, then do it. Then focus on that. If you're more towards working with students, then you do that. Like, you don't have to do everything. It depends on what you have to do to achieve. There's this one simple quote that I learned from someone I know. Basically, do what works. Like, do what works. If that works, then do it. If that doesn't work, then don't do it. Super simple.
That is nice. Be persistent. Do what works.
Exactly.
Awesome. We had another question roll in from the audience about the board game. Is it available to the public? Where can we find more information about the board game?
You can actually, aside from what we're doing with the project, we're developing another project specific for the board game. It's called the Wildlife Coexistence Quest. We're
Wildlife
making a board
Coexistence
game.
Quest.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's on Twitter. It's on Instagram. Sorry.
Okay.
So we're making the first research tool in the form of a board game for Southeast Asia. So it's a game related to sharks and rays and fisheries. It's
Okay.
in development, but hopefully in the future we can build something more, and hopefully people can access that. Totally.
Yeah.
Like that's a,
Well, speaking of the future, just one or two more questions, but speaking of the future, how do you plan? Your project is very holistic already, but how do you plan to expand it? How would you do more? Save Our Seas is always interested in, funding awesome research, and they every now and again they do listen to these. If you were given the blank check, what would you do more of? How would you improve your already impressive project?
Well, I mean, I was talking with we call it the father of sharks in Indonesia, and what he says is that we need more people working with, less known species. We need people to work with less charismatic species, but it's also in the sharks and rays. People are now getting to know more about the wedgefish and the guitarfish. So hopefully, first, like we want something to happen for in the form of regulation for sure. But if you're asking for a blank check, definitely my dream is always to build something like a field workstation. Like you can do field work, you can do lab. We need that in Indonesia because again, as I say, the issues are with fisheries. So people have the tendency to work with fisheries, with dead animals in the port, working with capture fishers. But we need to work more with live animals as well, right? We need to know where they go. We need to know what they
Right.
do. We need to know what they eat. So it's lacking, and that's the wishful thinking for me. So
Nice.
and hopefully that can facilitate a lot of people as well, not just for our
Yeah.
team.
I just want to put up your information again on the screen.
Yep.
If anyone
Cool.
is interested
Sure.
in following you, learning more about you, how to support you from outside of Indonesia. We have a lot of our audiences from the United States. What's the best way to follow what you're doing and help?
Yeah, you can send us an email, and we're mostly active in Instagram. So LinkedIn, I think our Facebook is pretty active as well. So just give us a follow, and yeah.
Great. Well,
Great.
Faqih, thank you very, very much for your time this evening. It's much appreciated, and your research. It's really I love it when I get to talk to researchers that just get it. They understand that it's not just the science; it needs to exist outside of that, and you're living and breathing it. So thank you for that. We appreciate all your wonderful thoughts and your presentation tonight. Thanks for being here.
Thanks again, Lance. It's a pleasure for us to share this with the rest of the world. And thanks for having us.
Well, join us next time. You can find us same time, same place, October 17th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's International Sawfish Day, everyone, on October 17th. Yeah, we have two speakers to help us celebrate this special day. Patricia Charvet from Brazil and Tristan Guttridge. There will be two sawfish researchers coming in to tell you about their projects and, like I said, help us celebrate the wonderful world of sawfish. They're really interesting animals, and now we know they're related to guitarfish and other rhinorays, which Faki taught us that tonight. You can join us by scanning the QR code here or going to mods.org/STEM Learning Series to sign up and join us then, all right? Well, thank you all very much for joining us tonight. Again, thanks to the Save Our Seas Foundation. Thank you, Faqih, for informing us all about these wonderful guitarfish and rhinorays. We really appreciate it. Everyone have a wonderful evening. See you next time.